Hey everyone, welcome back to Brown Coat Nerd. Today we've got a video on a little chunk of history, a little piece of the Berlin Wall. Now I've always actually have thought having a piece of the Berlin Wall would be cool to have. Ever since watching that episode of Head of the Class, where the teacher had a chunk of the wall. Um, but yeah, so this particular one I got off of Amazon. I've seen these pop up online time and time again. And they all, for the most part, at least here in the US, seem to be by the same company. It'll be in this little acrylic style case. And they come in different sizes. This is the smallest size, at least that I found, that was on Amazon at the time. And I believe this was like around 20 or 25 bucks. And for size comparison, here's an AR-15 mag. So you kind of have an idea of how big or small this is. I was reading the review, and a lot of people were kind of like shocked at how small it was, and were a little bit upset at that. But I know how to read dimensions, so I knew what I was expecting to get, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on this and get a bigger piece, as I'm not really sure if this even really is a piece of the Berlin Wall. So, first of all, what is the Berlin Wall? I'm not going to get in depth in the history. I would imagine most of you know what it is. Some of you might be like, oh, yeah, it was that wall that divided Germany. I've heard a lot of people say that, like it's the wall that divided East and West Germany. It kind of is and it isn't. A lot of people don't realize that Berlin itself was completely in East Germany, but Berlin, the capital, was divided amongst the Allies after World War II. Soviet Union had control of the eastern section, and then the western section of Berlin was divided up again between the U.S., Britain, and France. So Berlin was completely surrounded by East Germany. It was in East Germany. And the Berlin Wall specifically is the wall that divided East and West Berlin, not the country itself. Although obviously East and West Germany, I'm sure there was walls um, um, along that border, but we're talking specifically about Berlin. I've talked to a few people and I kind of realize a lot of people don't realize that. I think they kind of get the impression that Berlin is like sitting, just happen to be sitting on the border between East and West Germany, but that's not the case. Either way, I heavily encourage you to actually go watch a documentary about the Berlin Wall. There's several really good ones on YouTube. It's a very interesting and very sad piece of our history. And I do remember I was like only 9 at the time, but I remember all the news stations covering the Berlin Wall coming down, and it was like a really huge deal. And I think that was kind of a sign, at least to younger kids, like even I at 9 realized, okay, this is, the big bad Soviet Union is finally crumbling, and it really was kind of the beginning of the fall of the Soviet Union. But anyway, yeah, there's the real brief history on that. So, like I said, I've seen these popping up online and on eBay and Amazon. So I finally decided to get a little piece. I actually got this around last Christmas, so I'm a little late getting this video out. It does come with a certificate of authenticity. Um, However, certificates don't mean diddly squat to me. This is very nice cardstock. It has, the East German logo pressed in it. It's got a little foil stamp. It's numbered. Looks very impressive. Looks authentic, but at the same time, I mean, anyone can print one of these up. It's not like you have to go through a specific certificate of authenticity board or anything like that. You can just print it up. So it does come with one. I'm holding on to it until I make this video, and then this card's going in the trash because it means nothing to me. I'm not going to get rid of this. It's not, I only spent 20, 25 bucks on this. But what you get is a little piece of, what is it, structural engineers? Concrete, cement? I'm always getting that one confused, and I know that drives you guys nuts. But yeah, a little chunk of wall. Now, right away, before I even got my hands on this, I was very suspicious because all of the chunks show, paint on them. And as you can see, it's kind of a very interesting, tie-dye kind of paint effect. It's not like all one color. It looks like something's been painted over multiple times. And the piece online looks like that. Wasn't sure what I'd get. Obviously, this piece, as you can see, is painted. I believe this is something that they've added to the concrete. Whether or not it's real or not, I'm sure the majority of the pieces are not going to have any paint on them at all, because to have paint, it'd be specifically on the side facing West Germany. Well, I guess towards the end, East Germans were allowed to get up to the wall and spray paint graffiti on it as well. But even then, the majority of the material that made the wall is still going to be, in the middle of the wall, not the exterior. Looking at the reviews on Amazon about this, that is brought up at least in one question, and someone was like, well, obviously they just applied the paint to give it a neat look, because none of that would be left on there, which, yeah. So the paint, most likely, I'd say 99.9% is something that was just added on by the company. Now, whether or not this concrete actually came from the Berlin Wall or is just a random piece of concrete, that's the real question. I can't remember if I was watching a video or if this is something I read. But they did do a study, and I can't remember who they is. But basically, all over Berlin, even today, apparently there's tons of souvenir shops that are selling quote-unquote pieces of the Berlin Wall. But these people got together, and I guess through analyzing the components that made up the concrete or cement, calm down structural engineers, I'm sorry, they can determine whether or not that those really are pieces from the actual Berlin Wall. And I want to say, like, what they found was, like, I want to say it was like as high as 80% of the fragments they found in souvenir shops in Germany, or specifically in the Berlin area. I think it was like around 80% of them were actually fake, or, not from the Berlin Wall. So the likelihood of this piece actually being from the Berlin Wall, I do feel, is very low. However, it still is a good conversation piece. It still kind of makes its point. And I will say they're showing chunks of concrete. I saw this somewhere, and I know that the actual bits from the Berlin Wall will have kind of larger looking little stones or pebbles in there. I don't know how common that is amongst this material, so I don't know if that's really an indicator of anything this having that. And like I said, it's got the dates here from when the wall was put up to when it fell, which is actually a day earlier than they planned on. Once again, more interesting part of the story. But this here is Berlin. This is not an outline. Well, oh wait, is that Germany? I should have looked at a map before stating that. I was getting ready to say I believe this is an outline of Berlin and it being divided. But now that I say that, that might actually be the shape of Germany divided. Either way, if this is Germany, Berlin would be like right here. Anywho. Like I said, likelihood of it being authentic, not very high. How can you determine if it is? I mean, there's really no way. Like I said, it does come with a certificate of authenticity, but that doesn't really mean too much. But to me, for $25, it doesn't take up a whole lot of space on the bookshelf. I still think it's worth it. Like I said, it's still a good conversation piece. Someone comes over, they see that, they're like, oh, holy cow, Berlin Wall, gets conversation going. It still makes its statement. If you have, an East German SKS or East German Makarov or an East German helmet like we have here, which is actually the first helmet I ever purchased when I was a kid at the local military surplus shop in my small town. This is a really nice little added piece to that collection. Like I said, if you get the smaller one, it doesn't take up that much space. It's just a nice addition. And like I said, they do sell larger pieces. I'm not sure how big they get to or how high the price is. And if you are thinking about doing that, just keep in mind you might not be getting the real article here. Once again, like I said, that's why I kind of opted for the cheaper piece. It's just really kind of more of a conversational piece. Don't have a lot of faith that this is from the Berlin Wall, but hey, maybe it was still from some rubble that was a communist built building in East Germany. I don't know. Either way, I do think it's kind of a neat little deal, you know, for the price. I don't feel I got ripped off, even if that's not real. Paint's definitely not real, but I think it's neat. So I wanted to bring this video to you guys. Before I purchased it, I kind of tried to look around to see if people like, oh no, that's blatantly obviously fake. And really, what I found was people saying, you know, if you buy a piece of the quote unquote Berlin Wall, just know that most likely it's not actually from the Berlin Wall. However, the Berlin Wall was very long. Um, so there is quite a bit of debris from it to sell off. So, yeah. Anyways, that is it, guys. Just wanted to show you a video if you're thinking about getting one of these. Sorry I don't have a concrete answer to you whether it is fake or not. I do think most likely it is. But I think the value is still there as a conversation piece. You know, they added fake spray paint, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad they did, even though I know that's not legit graffiti, you know, from the communist era. Because if they didn't, I'd just have a gray chunk in there. And, you know, whenever we think of the Berlin Wall, we're always, you know, I think typically, at least as Westerners, we picture the Western side with all the graffiti and stuff on it. So, it makes sense. I know it's not real, but I am still happy that they did that. Yeah. So that's it, guys. That is my very short and sweet video on the little fragment of the Berlin Wall I got off of Amazon. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, stay safe and stay shiny.